Life rarely plays out the way we expect. There are moments that test us, moments that shake our confidence, and moments that demand we stand taller than the fear pressing down on us. Becoming bulletproof is not about wearing armor or preparing for violence. It is about shaping a mindset so steady, so disciplined, and so resilient that you cannot be broken by fear, doubt, or intimidation. The first step toward this kind of strength is understanding how fear really works. Fear is an ancient survival mechanism. It is not our enemy, it is a signal. Long ago, fear kept us alive by sharpening our senses, pushing us to react quickly, and keeping us cautious of threats. But in modern life, fear often misfires. It paralyzes us in boardrooms, silences us in conversations, and holds us back from opportunities that would change our lives. The bulletproof mindset begins by reframing fear not as a stop sign, but as information. When fear rises, it is telling you that something matters. It is your cue to focus, to prepare, and to respond deliberately instead of running away. To master fear, you must learn to slow yourself down in its presence. Most people try to avoid it. They deny it, they push it away, they drown it in distractions. But becoming bulletproof means facing it head-on and understanding what it does to your body. Your breathing quickens, your muscles tighten, your heart rate spikes. In those moments, the choice is simple. You can let your body's panic lead your mind, or you can train your mind to steady the body. Breathing becomes your first weapon. Long, controlled inhales and slow, intentional exhales tell your nervous system that you are safe. It sounds simple, but in the heat of a moment, it is everything. This is where resilience begins, not in eliminating fear, but in controlling the way you ride its wave. The next layer of the bulletproof mindset is self-control. Without it, fear runs wild and decisions collapse. With it, you become unshakable. Self-control is not just about suppressing emotions. It is about owning them, guiding them, and refusing to let external chaos dictate internal stability. Imagine being in a heated confrontation. One person yells, the other raises their voice in return, and suddenly anger builds on anger until reason disappears. The bulletproof individual, however, does not take the bait. They listen, they stand tall, they breathe, they wait. Their silence is not weakness, it is dominance. Self-control is not passive. It is an active choice to stay in command when the world is trying to push you off balance. And the more you practice it in small moments, choosing patience at the checkout line, holding your ground in a disagreement, staying calm when you are cut off in traffic, the more unbreakable it becomes when it truly counts.
Another critical piece is resilience. Resilience is not about bouncing back instantly. It is about the ability to keep moving forward no matter how hard you've been hit. Life will bruise you. You will face betrayal, failure, humiliation, and disappointment. To be bulletproof, you cannot waste energy wishing those things away. You must accept them as part of the path. Resilience is not denying pain. It is refusing to let pain decide your future. Think of a boxer. Every punch taken in the ring hurts, but the fighter does not crumble after one strike. They absorb it, they adjust, they adapt. Their resilience is in their refusal to quit. Your own resilience grows when you build the discipline of showing up, even when it hurts. When you refuse to let yesterday's wounds keep you from tomorrow's battles, you are building an armor far stronger than anything physical. The final foundation of the bulletproof mindset is presence. Most people live trapped between the past and the future, haunted by mistakes or anxious about what might happen. But in high-pressure situations, that kind of thinking destroys you. The bulletproof individual lives in the now. They notice what others overlook: the subtle changes in tone, the flicker of doubt in someone's eyes, the shift in energy in a room. Presence is not mystical. It is awareness sharpened by practice. You cultivate it by constantly pulling yourself back into the moment. What do you see right now? What do you hear? What do you feel in your body? When you practice presence, you become harder to deceive, harder to manipulate, and harder to rattle. Presence is your anchor. It keeps you steady when everything around you is storming. When you combine these elements, fear reframed, self-control practiced, resilience built, and presence sharpened, you begin to construct a foundation that nothing can easily penetrate. This is not about pretending to be fearless. It is about acknowledging fear and walking forward anyway. It is not about avoiding pain. It is about knowing you can survive it. It is not about being invulnerable to attack. It is about being unshakable in response. The bulletproof mindset is not something you are born with. It is something you train every single day. Small choices add up. Choosing to breathe instead of panic. Choosing patience instead of anger. Choosing persistence instead of quitting. Over time, these choices layer into something unbreakable. The truth is, becoming bulletproof is less about the world outside and more about the world inside. If you can control yourself, you can handle anything. The storm may come, people may betray you, plans may collapse, but you will not be moved because you have built your foundation on principles stronger than circumstance. This is the first step. Before you learn to read others, before you practice physical tactics, before you master strategy, you must master yourself. Only then can you move into the world with the calm confidence of someone who cannot be broken.
The art of becoming bulletproof does not begin with physical toughness. It begins with the mind, with learning how to control your own thoughts before they control you. Fear is an ancient signal designed to protect us, but left unchecked, it mutates into hesitation, paralysis, and poor decision-making. True resilience comes from recognizing fear not as an enemy, but as an advisor, a messenger telling you to prepare, to sharpen your senses, to move with intention. Imagine standing in a dark parking garage late at night. Your chest tightens, your breathing quickens, and every sound echoes louder than usual. That is your body's natural alarm system switching on. The difference between vulnerability and strength lies in whether you allow that alarm to dictate your actions or whether you learn to harness it as fuel. Those who are bulletproof use fear as a sharpening stone rather than a cage. They rehearse scenarios in their mind, not out of paranoia, but as preparation. Instead of asking, "What if something goes wrong?" they ask, "What will I do when something goes wrong?" That subtle change flips panic into readiness. Mental armor is built through habits, not grand gestures. It begins with awareness of how your mind reacts under stress. When you notice your heart pounding, your palms sweating, or your breath shortening, you have a choice. Do you let those signals escalate into chaos, or do you anchor yourself with a single thought? I am in control of me. The outside world may erupt, but mastery begins with self-regulation. Breathing techniques, visualization, and mental reframing are not cliches. They are weapons for survival. In moments of pressure, controlling your breath is controlling your body, and controlling your body is controlling your destiny. Warriors, elite agents, and athletes all train this skill. They learn to lower their pulse in seconds, not by eliminating stress, but by proving to themselves that stress can be commanded. Once you have trained your mind to pause, to breathe, and to decide with clarity instead of panic, you are already ahead of most people who fold under pressure. But bulletproof thinking is not only about defense, it is also about perception. Most people walk through life blind, distracted by noise, devices, or their own insecurities. They fail to notice the details that reveal truth. The color of someone's face when lying, the slight delay before a dishonest answer, the way a crowd moves when danger is near. Training yourself to see these signals transforms you from a passive observer into an active participant in your own safety. You learn to walk into a room and instantly spot exits, potential threats, and body language cues. This does not make you paranoid, it makes you prepared. It is the same skill set used by those who have lived and survived in unpredictable worlds. Once you sharpen your perception, you discover that the world has always been full of signs. Most people simply fail to read them.
There is also the matter of resilience when attacked not physically but emotionally. Bullets come in many forms: harsh words, betrayal, rejection, loss. They pierce deeply because the human heart craves acceptance and belonging. To become bulletproof is to understand that no one can truly wound you without your permission. If someone calls you worthless, it only becomes real if you adopt their judgment. If someone rejects you, it only defines you if you believe that rejection reflects your true worth. Mental armor means recognizing that insults are often projections of the speaker's own weakness. They are arrows that fall harmlessly to the ground unless you pick them up and stab yourself with them. The choice is always yours. Preparation also involves cultivating adaptability. The strongest people are not the ones who cling rigidly to one identity, but those who adjust fluidly to changing environments. Think of water poured into different vessels. It becomes the shape of its container without losing its essence. That is adaptability. You remain yourself, but you adjust strategies depending on the challenge. Rigidity breaks under pressure, but flexibility bends and survives. When life throws unexpected obstacles, those who are bulletproof see possibilities rather than endings. They ask, how can this setback teach me? How can I pivot? How can I use this pain as raw material for growth? By asking these questions, you prevent hardship from becoming your definition and instead transform it into your training ground. Equally important is the discipline of boundaries. To protect yourself, you must recognize who drains your energy, who manipulates, and who undermines your potential. Emotional leeches disguise themselves as friends, colleagues, even loved ones, but their pattern is consistent. They leave you weaker than before. Bulletproof individuals do not allow guilt to bind them to toxic connections. They set boundaries not as walls, but as filters, allowing what nourishes and rejecting what poisons. This is not cruelty, it is self-respect. And self-respect is non-negotiable if you intend to live strong and free. At its core, part 2 of building bulletproof strength is about reframing reality. Instead of being a victim of circumstances, you train yourself to be an architect of responses. The external world is wild, unpredictable, sometimes cruel. But the internal world, your thoughts, your reactions, your beliefs, is a territory you can master. Every time you face fear and decide with clarity, every time you reject an insult rather than absorb it, every time you notice a hidden detail that others miss, you strengthen your armor. Over time, this armor is not heavy, it is not rigid, it is light, flexible, and empowering. You move through the world not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence, knowing that while storms may rage, you have already built shelter within yourself.
Strength is not only built by training your reactions to fear or your ability to establish boundaries. It is also cultivated in the way you carry yourself every single day, because presence is power. People often underestimate how much their posture, tone of voice, and eye contact influence how they are perceived. But these subtle signals create the difference between being seen as prey or being seen as someone not to be tested. Your presence speaks long before your words. The way you walk into a room, whether you are calm and grounded or jittery and distracted, sets the tone for how others treat you. Presence begins with posture. Imagine a person hunched over, shoulders caved in, eyes darting toward the ground. They send an unconscious message: I am unsure, I am vulnerable, I can be dismissed. Now picture someone standing tall, shoulders back, chin lifted, just enough to show confidence but not arrogance, eyes meeting others with calm steadiness. The difference is not superficial, it is biological. Humans are wired to read body language instantly, and in that instant, judgments are made about credibility, strength, and trustworthiness. This is why developing bulletproof presence requires deliberate physical awareness. Every gesture you make either strengthens your shield or weakens it. Breath, once again, is central. Presence is impossible if your body is restless and your breath shallow. When you train yourself to breathe deeply and slowly, your voice carries differently, your muscles loosen, and your movements project calm assurance. People are drawn to those who radiate composure because composure suggests control. The opposite, jittery movements, rushed speech, eyes darting, creates unease in everyone around you. In stressful moments, composure is magnetic. It reassures allies and unsettles adversaries. It tells the world, I am not shaken. Eye contact is another cornerstone of presence. But true eye contact is not a stare-down competition, it is connection.
Looking at someone with steadiness while listening signals respect and confidence simultaneously. Shifting your eyes nervously or avoiding them altogether signals insecurity. Holding a gaze too long in a confrontational way signals aggression. The balance lies in maintaining warm, steady contact that projects confidence without hostility. The person who has mastered this balance instantly earns trust in negotiations, respect in conflict, and attention in conversation.
But presence is not only physical, it is also psychological. Many people enter situations thinking only of themselves, their nerves, their goals, their fears. But bulletproof presence comes from directing attention outward rather than inward. When you focus on truly observing others, truly listening, and truly being engaged in the present moment, you not only notice more, but you also radiate authenticity. People sense when someone is self-absorbed versus when someone is fully engaged with them. Engagement disarms hostility and creates trust because it makes others feel seen. And in any dynamic, the person who makes others feel seen is the one who holds influence. Presence also requires control over your voice. Not volume, not theatrics, but command. A voice that trembles or rushes betrays nerves, while a voice that is steady, paced, and deliberate commands attention. Pauses are as powerful as words. Silence, when owned, creates space that others instinctively fill, and in that space, you control the rhythm of interaction. Those who rush to fill silence often expose weakness. Those who can hold it display strength. This kind of presence does not appear overnight. It is forged through small, daily choices. Practicing how you enter a room. Practicing how you shake a hand. Practicing how you breathe when someone challenges you. Practicing how you hold your gaze when someone tries to intimidate you. Each repetition adds to your armor until presence is no longer a performance but a natural extension of who you are. Eventually, you no longer need to think about posture, voice, or gaze. They align with your internal strength and the world simply feels it. Presence is also about energy. Some people drain a room when they walk in, others lift it. The bulletproof individual learns to manage their energy intentionally. That means conserving energy when surrounded by negativity and projecting positivity when leading others. It is about knowing when to be silent and when to speak, when to be firm and when to soften. Presence is not loudness, it is clarity. It is not dominance, it is influence. The strongest presence often comes from the calmest person in the room, the one who does not need to shout to be heard because their very being commands attention. And beyond the personal, presence is protective. Predators, whether physical or psychological, look for those who appear distracted, submissive, or uncertain. When your posture is strong, your gaze steady, and your movements deliberate, you send a signal that you are aware and not an easy target. It is not about aggression, it is assurance. Those who cultivate presence often find that conflict seeks them less, not because they are aggressive, but because they project that they will not be easy prey. In truth, presence is both shield and sword. It protects you from being overlooked, underestimated, or targeted. And it empowers you to influence, inspire, and lead. And like all elements of being bulletproof, it is a discipline. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, presence is not something you put on, it is something you embody, a living extension of your internal strength.
Strength doesn't just come from knowing how to handle external threats. It's born from mastering the inner world, the realm of thoughts, emotions, and reactions that often dictate how effectively you deal with life's challenges. Emotional fortitude means more than keeping a poker face under pressure. It's about developing a deep resilience that prevents others or even circumstances from hijacking your peace of mind. You can walk through chaos and still remain steady because your mind is trained not to react impulsively, but to observe, interpret, and then respond with purpose. One of the first lessons of emotional control is recognizing the difference between what you can influence and what you cannot.
People lose tremendous energy fighting battles in their heads about situations already outside their control. Someone cuts you off in traffic, a client cancels a deal, a stranger says something insulting. In those moments, your body reacts automatically: anger, adrenaline, frustration. But emotional control means creating space between the trigger and the response. You learn to breathe, to pause, and to let your higher reasoning override the emotional impulse. The win is not in winning the argument or exploding back. It's in not letting external forces steal your clarity. This principle extends to fear as well. Fear is a natural response, but uncontrolled fear becomes crippling. Emotional fortitude teaches you that fear is a signal, not a master. Instead of surrendering to it, you learn to interrogate it. What is this fear telling me? Is it protecting me from a real danger, or is it projecting a worst-case scenario that may never arrive? The power lies in acknowledging the fear but refusing to let it dictate action. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's acting wisely despite it. Mental control also demands discipline over your thoughts. The mind can spiral into destructive loops if left unchecked. What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if I'm not good enough? These are the questions that silently drain confidence. Instead of silencing them through denial, resilience comes from reframing. What if this is an opportunity to learn? What if rejection simply redirects me toward the right path? By shifting the mental narrative, you regain power over situations that once felt overwhelming.
In high-pressure situations, this mental training becomes survival. Imagine sitting across from someone who is intentionally trying to provoke you to shake your confidence, to push you into a mistake. Without control, you'd flinch, you'd frown, you'd lash out, and they would know they've succeeded. With mental fortitude, however, you maintain composure. You regulate your breathing, you steady your eyes, you measure your words. Silence becomes a weapon, calmness becomes armor. The one who controls their emotions ultimately controls the outcome of the exchange. Daily practice reinforces this skill. Mental drills such as visualization, journaling, or even moments of silence strengthen your awareness of how emotions rise and fade. Physical habits also play a role. Exercising discipline and training, and waking early, and facing small discomforts daily builds the resilience muscle. It's not just about preparing for extraordinary danger. It's about ensuring that ordinary challenges don't shake your foundation. The truth is, emotional resilience protects more than your mind. It protects your relationships. Think of the times when anger caused words you later regretted, when impatience damaged trust, when unchecked frustration turned a small conflict into a lasting divide. With emotional fortitude, you create room for grace. You listen more than you react. You speak with intention rather than impulse. You establish presence instead of noise. That steadiness not only shields you, but also inspires respect and trust in others. The paradox of strength is that it often looks quiet from the outside. It's not about shouting, demanding, or constantly asserting yourself. True strength is calm, deliberate, and unshaken, even when provoked. Others may not see the mental work behind that poise, but they will feel its weight. That is the essence of becoming bulletproof emotionally, learning that no outside force has the right to dictate your inner state unless you allow it. Tactical strength is where theory turns into survival. It's the practical application of resilience, the moment when your mindset is tested, not in quiet reflection, but in real-world situations where hesitation, distraction, or poor decisions can cost you. The purpose of tactical strength is not to turn you into a soldier or fighter, but to make you harder to exploit, harder to manipulate, and harder to harm in everyday life. Imagine walking into a late-night parking garage. A stranger lingers near your car. If you shrink your shoulders, shuffle your steps, or avoid eye contact, you appear uncertain, easy prey. But if you walk upright, make direct eye contact, and move with deliberate steps, your body language communicates something different. I see you, I am confident, and I am not an easy target. Criminals, like predators, prefer easy prey. A confident presence alone deters many threats before they begin. Command presence is not about acting tough.
it's about acting controlled. Awareness works like layers. The first layer is baseline observation, knowing what normal looks like in any environment. At a cafe, normal might be people working on laptops, chatting, waiting for coffee. The second layer is detecting anomalies, noticing the man who isn't ordering, who keeps scanning the room, or who adjusts his jacket nervously. The third layer is predictive awareness, asking yourself, if something happens here, where will I move? What's my exit? This simple mental exercise, repeated regularly, creates automatic responses under pressure. For example, in a crowded subway, if a fight breaks out, you already know where the nearest exit is, who the aggressive parties are, and which direction you'll move. The chaos won't freeze you because your mind has rehearsed it already. Words can be weapons or shields. In tense confrontations, your voice is the first tactical tool. For example, if someone aggressively steps into your space at a bar and starts insulting you, the average person either backs down submissively or fights fire with fire. Both approaches escalate risk. Tactical communication uses verbal jujitsu, redirecting aggression without feeding it. You set a boundary with calm repetition. I don't want trouble, step back. If they persist, you repeat with the same tone, step back. By not raising your volume, by not adding insults, you signal that you are calm, firm, and not easily provoked. Many aggressors burn out when they realize they can't pull you into their emotional storm. Space is power. Consider a workplace argument. If a colleague backs you against a desk, they control the space and you feel cornered. Tactical strength means adjusting subtly, stepping sideways to keep room, angling your body toward an open path, or positioning yourself near a door when entering unfamiliar environments. In public, it means choosing the seat with your back to a wall, so no one approaches unseen from behind. On the street, it means noticing blind spots like alleys and crossing early to maintain distance. These small, seemingly invisible choices compound into one powerful truth. You control your environment instead of letting it control you.
Not all threats can be walked away from. The skill lies in knowing when to de-escalate and when to escalate decisively. For example, if someone on public transport shouts insults at you, escalation is unnecessary. You disengage, move seats, avoid eye contact. But if the same person steps in front of you, blocks your exit, and becomes physically threatening, escalation might be required. Whether that's loudly drawing attention, commanding them to stop, or, if unavoidable, defending yourself physically. The rule is clear. De-escalate whenever possible, but if escalation becomes necessary, commit fully. Hesitation is the most dangerous place to be. You're walking home at night. You notice two people behind you, keeping your pace. Your awareness kicks in. Baseline is broken. You cross the street. They cross too. Instead of waiting until they close in, you pivot. You stop under a light, face them directly, and project command presence. Can I help you? This sudden shift from potential victim to proactive actor often disrupts criminal intent. They lose the advantage of surprise. If they continue forward, you've already assessed escape routes, and you're prepared to escalate if necessary. At work, a superior unfairly criticizes you in front of others, pushing for a reaction. Instead of arguing defensively, you use tactical communication. I hear your concern. Let's discuss solutions after this meeting. You de-escalate publicly, protecting your reputation, and shift the battle to a private space where you have more control. This is still tactical strength, not about fists or fights, but about maintaining control of your space, your reputation, and your options. You're in a grocery store when two strangers begin arguing loudly nearby. Most people freeze, pretending nothing is happening. Tactical awareness means creating space, moving calmly to another aisle, positioning yourself near an exit, and keeping eyes on the situation. You don't let curiosity or passivity trap you in a potential crossfire. Tactical strength is often invisible. It's the person who isn't there when chaos erupts because they left before it escalated. Tactics aren't about paranoia, they're about control. You can't predict every threat,
But you can control how you prepare, how you move, how you communicate, and how you decide when to walk away or when to act. A bulletproof mindset uses tactics not to dominate others, but to protect space, preserve dignity, and ensure survival. When you blend these tactical layers with your inner resilience, you become someone who is very hard to harm. Not because you fight every battle, but because you rarely need to. At its core, becoming bulletproof is not just about stopping physical threats or outsmarting manipulation. It is about cultivating an unshakable self that cannot be pierced by the chaos of life. When we strip away the tactics, the training, and the external displays of strength, what remains is the deeper question. What do you stand for, and how do you live with courage, clarity, and conviction in a world full of uncertainty? Philosophically, strength begins with identity. Many people live their lives defined by the expectations of others, their families, their peers, their culture, even strangers on social media. This dependence makes them fragile because anything external can be taken away. To be bulletproof means disentangling your sense of worth from external approval and instead rooting it in something internal, something immovable. You decide your values. You define your mission. You determine the meaning of your life. And when those are solid, no attack, physical, emotional, or social, can destabilize you. A powerful paradox runs through this idea. True strength is not hardness, but adaptability. Think of steel, rigid but brittle if strained beyond its limit. Now think of water. It flows, it adapts, it fills any space, and over time, it wears down even the strongest rock. The bulletproof mindset is more like water than steel. It is not about clenching your fists and resisting the world, but about bending without breaking, adapting without losing yourself, and flowing through challenges with resilience. Another layer of this philosophy is about control. Most of human suffering comes from grasping at what we cannot control and ignoring what we can. If someone insults you, you cannot control their words, but you can control your reaction. If the world changes in ways you did not expect, you cannot control the external storm, but you can control the calm at your center. This is the essence of Stoic strength, a timeless principle that aligns perfectly with the bulletproof mindset. Focus your energy only where it matters and refuse to waste your life on battles you cannot win. And then there is fear, the most common bullet that life fires at us. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of pain, fear of death. To live courageously is not to eliminate fear, but to carry it without letting it dictate your actions. Fear will whisper that you are not ready, that you should hold back, that you should choose safety over growth. The bulletproof philosophy answers, feel the fear, acknowledge it, and then step forward anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the mastery of fear. This way of living inevitably leads to a question of legacy. If you cannot be pierced by fear, manipulation, or external chaos, what do you use your strength for? The answer lies in contribution. A bulletproof life is not just about surviving or protecting yourself, it is about being able to stand strong so you can uplift others, defend the vulnerable, speak truth when it is unpopular, and serve something bigger than your own ego. The strongest people are not those who live only for themselves, but those who use their resilience to build a safer, freer, more courageous world for everyone around them. Finally, the most profound lesson of all. If you cannot be pierced by fear, manipulation, or external chaos, what do you use your strength for? The answer lies in contribution. A bulletproof life is not just about surviving or protecting yourself, it is about being able to stand strong so you can uplift others, defend the vulnerable, speak truth when it is unpopular, and serve something bigger than your own ego. The strongest people are not those who live only for themselves, but those who use their resilience to build a safer, freer, more courageous world for everyone around them. Finally, the most profound lesson of all, mortality. No matter how strong you are, no matter how prepared, one day your physical life will end. To be bulletproof is not to deny death, but to embrace it as the ultimate reminder to live fully now. Each day is borrowed time. Each moment is an opportunity to practice courage, kindness, clarity, and presence. When you internalize this, you stop wasting energy on trivial battles, and you pour yourself into what really matters: love, purpose, service, growth. So the philosophical conclusion is this: becoming bulletproof is not about building walls around yourself, but about standing so firmly in who you are that the world cannot break you. It is about transforming fear into fuel, pain into wisdom, and uncertainty into possibility. It is about being free not from danger, not from difficulty, but from the illusion that these things control you. With this freedom, you can walk through life unshaken, not because you are untouchable, but because you are unbreakable.